Silence is not weakness, it is positioning. In every psychological battle, the person who reacts first usually loses control first. Most people cannot tolerate silence. They rush to fill it with explanations, justifications, anger, or nervous laughter. But when you remain quiet, calm, observant, unreadable, you create tension. And tension is power. The one who controls the emotional temperature of the room controls the outcome. When someone tries to provoke you, they expect movement. They expect defense. They expect emotion. What they are not prepared for is stillness. Strategic silence works because it disrupts expectations. Manipulators rely on predictable reactions. They push a button and wait for anger. They accuse and wait for justification. They insult and wait for visible hurt. But when their words land in a void, when you simply look at them without expression, they begin to question their own position. Doubt creeps in. Did it work? Are you unaffected? Are you planning something? That uncertainty weakens them. The mind fears what it cannot read. When you speak less, you observe more. Instead of focusing on crafting your response, you study their tone, their breathing, their micro-expressions. You notice the slight hesitation before a lie, the subtle tightening of the jaw when insecurity is triggered. Silence gives you information, and information is leverage. The person talking is revealing. The person listening is collecting. In any mind game, the collector holds the advantage. Silence also protects you. Words spoken in emotion can be used against you. A defensive explanation can expose insecurity. An angry reaction can confirm vulnerability. But when you choose not to respond immediately, you eliminate unnecessary exposure. You give nothing away. Your calm presence becomes a mirror, forcing the other person to confront themselves. Most people become uncomfortable under their own reflection. There is another layer to this power. Silence communicates confidence. When you do not rush to defend yourself, you signal that you are not threatened. When you do not argue, you suggest that their opinion does not destabilize you. Calm eye contact, steady breathing, relaxed posture, these silent signals speak louder than any clever comeback. They imply inner control. And control is intimidating. Strategic silence does not mean permanent quiet. It means choosing the exact moment to speak. When you finally respond, your words are measured, precise, and controlled. Because you waited, your voice carries weight. Because you did not argue, your statement feels final. Few words, delivered calmly, have more impact than long emotional speeches. In psychological warfare, noise is common. Anyone can shout. Anyone can argue. But very few can sit in silence without feeling the urge to react. When you master that stillness, you shift the balance. You allow others to exhaust themselves while you remain composed. You let them reveal their strategy while you refine yours. And in that quiet space, where others grow restless, you quietly win the mind game without ever raising your voice. Winning a mind game without speaking begins with understanding that your face is never truly silent. Long before words are formed, your eyes, posture, and subtle muscle movements reveal emotion. Most people lose psychological battles not because they say the wrong thing, but because their expressions betray them. A raised eyebrow, tightened lips, restless hands, these signals expose doubt, anger, insecurity. The person across from you is constantly scanning for those signs. If they detect emotional movement, they know they have influence. But when your expression remains steady and unreadable, the dynamic changes immediately. Micro-expressions are brief, involuntary flashes of emotion that appear for less than a second. They are difficult to fake and even harder to hide without discipline. When someone tries to provoke you and sees even the smallest flicker of irritation in your eyes, they recognize impact. That tiny reaction confirms their control. But when your gaze remains calm, your breathing slow, your facial muscles relaxed, you become psychologically opaque. And what cannot be read cannot be easily manipulated. Eye contact is one of the most powerful silent tools. Too little eye contact suggests fear or submission. Too much, forced or aggressive staring, signals insecurity or a need to dominate. The balance is steady, neutral, controlled. When someone challenges you verbally and you simply hold relaxed eye contact without blinking rapidly or shifting away, it creates subtle pressure. You are communicating, without words, that you are not threatened. That composure unsettles people who rely on intimidation. Your posture also plays a critical role, shoulders back but relaxed, chin level, movements slow and deliberate. Rapid gestures, fidgeting, or defensive crossing of arms reveal discomfort. Controlled stillness suggests confidence. The slower and more intentional your movements are, the more authority you project. In psychological dynamics, speed often equals nervousness. Slowness equals certainty. Winning silently also means mastering emotional neutrality. This does not mean suppressing emotion internally, it means controlling external leakage. When you feel anger rising, you regulate your breathing. When you sense irritation, you soften your facial tension. Emotional discipline prevents others from mapping your internal state. If they cannot predict your reactions, they cannot steer them. Another advantage of controlled micro-expressions is unpredictability. Humans feel safer when they can categorize others quickly. Friendly, angry, defensive, dominant. But when your expression remains calm and minimal, people struggle to label you. That uncertainty makes them cautious. Caution shifts power. In mind games, the person who reveals less has more leverage. Words can be twisted, emotions can be exploited, but a steady gaze and controlled expression deny ammunition. You become the observer rather than the exposed participant. While others react impulsively, you remain centered. Over time, this composure builds a reputation. People begin to sense that you are not easily shaken, that you cannot be emotionally cornered, and once that perception forms, many conflicts dissolve before they begin. Because in psychological battles, dominance is rarely about volume, it is about control. And when your face remains calm while others search for cracks, you win without speaking a single word. One of the most underestimated strategies in any psychological battle is the power of being underestimated yourself. When you allow others to believe you are unaware, less capable, or less strategic than you truly are, you give them a false sense of security, and security makes people careless. Most mind games are built on ego. The person who thinks they are smarter, more dominant, or more in control will eventually relax their guard. That moment of relaxation is where silent advantage is created. When someone believes you don't see the game, they stop hiding it. Their manipulation becomes more obvious. Their tone becomes more revealing. Their overconfidence pushes them to expose intentions they would otherwise conceal. Instead of confronting them directly, you simply observe. You let them speak more. You let them show their strategy. The more they assume superiority, the more predictable they become. Playing underestimated requires patience and emotional discipline. Your instinct may push you to prove yourself, to correct assumptions, to demonstrate intelligence immediately. But proving yourself too early eliminates strategic positioning. When you rush to show strength, you remove the element of surprise. Silence and subtlety preserve it. You allow others to miscalculate your depth while you calculate theirs. Underestimation also lowers resistance. When people view you as non-threatening, they reveal vulnerabilities more freely. They share information, complain about insecurities, expose frustrations. They underestimate your awareness, believing you are simply present rather than perceptive. Meanwhile, you are gathering insight. In psychological dynamics, information gathered quietly is more valuable than power declared loudly. There is also a psychological effect tied to ego inflation. When someone feels intellectually superior, they often overextend. They take bigger risks. They push boundaries further than necessary. They assume you won't challenge them. That overextension creates openings. You do not need to interrupt their momentum. You simply wait for the moment when their confidence blinds them. Then, with one calm, well-timed action or statement, you shift the balance completely. Remaining underestimated does not mean shrinking yourself permanently. It means controlling visibility. You choose when to reveal competence. You decide when to assert authority. Because you were not competing for dominance from the beginning, your eventual move feels unexpected and powerful. Surprise magnifies impact. This strategy also protects you emotionally. When you are not trying to constantly defend your intelligence or strength, you conserve energy. You detach from the need for validation. That detachment makes you less reactive and more observant. While others are busy establishing status, you are studying structure. In mind games, the loudest display of power is rarely the strongest. Real dominance is quiet and strategic. By allowing others to underestimate you, you shift from participant to architect. They believe they are leading the interaction, unaware that they are simply revealing their blueprint. And when the moment comes, your response is precise, controlled, and decisive. You win not by overpowering them, but by letting their own assumptions create the opening. Emotional detachment is one of the most powerful forms of psychological armor. Every mind game depends on emotional activation. Anger, jealousy, insecurity, fear, these are the levers manipulators pull to gain control. When your emotions spike, your thinking narrows. You react instead of calculate. You defend instead of observe. The moment someone can influence how you feel, they begin influencing how you behave. That is why detachment is not coldness, it is control. Detachment means creating space between stimulus and response. When someone insults you, you notice the words without absorbing them. When someone tries to provoke jealousy or guilt, you recognize the tactic instead of drowning in the feeling. This pause is subtle but powerful. In that small gap, you regain authority over yourself. Instead of being pushed into reaction, you choose your next move deliberately. Most people mistake emotional intensity for strength. They believe showing anger proves dominance, or that defending themselves passionately shows confidence. In reality, uncontrolled emotion exposes vulnerability. It tells the other person exactly where your pressure points are. If they can see what triggers you, they can repeat it. But when your reactions are measured, when your breathing remains steady and your tone neutral, they lose their roadmap. Emotional detachment also sharpens perception. When you are not consumed by defending your ego, you can observe the situation objectively. You notice patterns. You see repetition in their tactics. You understand their motives more clearly. Emotion clouds judgment. Detachment clarifies it. The clearer you see, the better you can respond strategically rather than impulsively. There is a silent intimidation in calmness. When someone attempts to destabilize you and fails, they begin to question themselves. Their frustration increases because their effort produces no visible effect. This reversal shifts the psychological pressure back onto them. The more emotionally stable you remain, the more unstable they may become. Stability in chaos is rare, and rarity commands respect. Detachment does not mean you feel nothing. It means you feel without surrendering control. You acknowledge internal reactions but do not let them dictate external behavior. This discipline requires awareness and practice. You train yourself to slow your breathing when tension rises. You relax your posture when confrontation begins. You keep your voice level when provoked. These small physical adjustments reinforce mental control. Over time, emotional discipline builds reputation. People recognize that you are not easily triggered. They understand that attempts to manipulate you will likely fail. Many conflicts dissolve before escalating because others sense that you cannot be emotionally cornered. In psychological dynamics, predictability is weakness. Emotional unpredictability, rooted in calm consistency, creates strength. When you are emotionally detached, you become difficult to move, and when you cannot be moved easily, you cannot be controlled easily. Mind games lose their impact when the target refuses to react as expected. By mastering your internal state, you remove the very foundation on which manipulation stands. In that steady, grounded position, You win not by overpowering others, but by remaining unshaken while they exhaust themselves trying. The one who observes more always controls more. In every interaction, there are two games happening at the same time: the visible conversation and the invisible pattern beneath it. Most people focus only on what is being said. They react to words, tone, and surface meaning. But the real leverage exists in what repeats, what shifts subtly, what contradicts itself. When you train yourself to observe instead of react, you begin to see the structure behind behavior. And once you see the structure, you can predict the outcome. Observation requires restraint. When someone challenges you, your instinct may be to interrupt, defend, or correct them immediately. But interruption blinds you. Reaction distracts you. If you allow them to continue speaking, they reveal their motives. The longer people talk, the more they expose inconsistencies. A slight hesitation before answering a direct question. A shift in posture when a sensitive topic arises. A sudden change in tone when their authority feels threatened. These signals are rarely intentional, yet they are incredibly informative. Patterns are more important than isolated moments. Anyone can appear confident once. Anyone can fake calm briefly, but over time, patterns expose reality. Does this person always deflect blame? Do they repeat the same manipulation tactics in different forms? Do they seek validation before making decisions? When you watch for repetition, rather than reacting to single incidents, you begin to map their psychological blueprint. Silence enhances observation. When you speak less, you free mental space to analyze. Instead of planning your next sentence, you are analyzing theirs. Instead of worrying about how you appear, you are studying how they behave. This shift from performance to perception changes the power dynamic. The one performing is vulnerable. The one observing is gathering leverage. Observation also reveals emotional triggers. Everyone has them. A specific criticism that tightens their jaw. A topic that makes their voice rise. A subtle insecurity that surfaces under pressure. When you identify these triggers, you understand where their stability weakens. You do not need to exploit it aggressively. Simply knowing it exists gives you strategic advantage. You know what destabilizes them and what strengthens them. Winning mind games without speaking does not require dramatic gestures. It requires disciplined awareness. You notice who speaks first, who breaks eye contact, who fills silence nervously, who changes their story slightly under pressure. Each detail adds to your understanding, and understanding builds control. The most dangerous player in any psychological contest is not the loudest or the most dominant. It is the quiet observer, the person who gathers information patiently while revealing very little about themselves. When you observe deeply, you reduce surprises. You anticipate moves before they happen. You respond with precision instead of emotion. In the end, control is not about force. It is about foresight. The more accurately you can read someone, the less power they have to disrupt you. By choosing observation over reaction, you shift from being a participant in the game to becoming the strategist behind it. And strategy, when silent and calculated, wins far more consistently than impulse ever could.